The John LeBang Show has been known to make people laugh, sing, think, scream, throw things in rage, and generally lose their minds. Listener discretion is advised.
Worldwide and out to the greater universe, you're listening to the John LeBang Show.
So in the supposed battle over America in the 2020 elections, we have a presidential candidate named Joe Biden, nicknamed Sleepy Joe, Creepy Joe, there's all kinds of names for him. We also know that his running mate, Kamala Harris, has plans on being the president, and their party is getting ready to come up with a little thing where they can use the 25th Amendment to remove a future president. How do you like that, folks? They're already preparing. No matter who the next president's going to be of the United States, they're preparing that. On the other side, we have the Trumpster, who's been in politics roughly 4 years. And his accomplishments vary depending on who you talk to, who is pro-Trump and who is anti-Trump, and then the people in the middle. He thinks he's done a great job. Many of us have thought he's done a lukewarm job at best. Some people think he can't get anything done because he's always being opposed by the other side, even though he had the Republicans in the Congress, the House and the Senate, and then he had the Republican presidency himself. But this is no longer, in my opinion, a quest to lead America back to what makes America great in any regards. And I'm talking from the Trump side and from the Biden side. This isn't a battle over America from the people's point of view. This is a battle over the country between China and Zionism. We can see with the Trumpster, he's been very pro-Israel, and with the Abrahamic Accords, he's set up that Middle East to benefit Israel. On the other hand, and by the way, before I go on the other hand, that was quite historic in many regards. Other presidents couldn't do that. Although that didn't get the pub in the mainstream malpractice media, because it's a positive for Trump. On the other hand, we have Joe Biden, who is deeply in bed with China and other countries, but deeply in bed with China through Hunter Biden. Plenty of new documents have come out. Well, the laptop came out, and they found out a whole bunch of stuff about Hunter Biden on there. Another October surprise. We told you there were going to be plenty of these things going on. One right after the other. Tit for tat, as many as they could, right up into the election. We've also done the coding for Biden and how he codes to the same as China. But we don't need the coding to tell us that. We can see clear as day that Biden is more pro-China and China is more pro-Biden. So we have a choice between a China-influenced administration and a Zionist or Israeli-influenced administration. There's even been rumors that Trump had converted to Judaism a couple years back. I believe Kushner is a practicing Jew. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way, folks. My point is, no one who's running for president that is in the two major parties is actually pushing America first. Trump may talk a good game, but he's really much more pro-Israel than he is pro-America. He may be pro-America. I'm not trying to diminish what he has done, because there are some good things that he's done while he's been in office. There's no doubt about it. But you can see with all the moves that are taking place that he is very pro-Israel. On the other hand, again, Biden and his family is receiving millions, if not billions of dollars. We don't know because it's really shady over there, in deals with China. And China, who has clearly been a part of the entire boogie woogie virus spreading across the world. From some point of view, it is the Chinese that are at fault for the whole world having to lock down. And they're right to a certain point. To others who despise the president, it's all his fault for the boogie woogie virus getting here, even though he shut the country down, or shut the travel down from China and from the United Kingdom and all of Europe, while the opposition was claiming he was a xenophobe and he shouldn't be do that. Remember when Nancy Pelosi went down to Chinatown after he shut down the travel from China? There's nothing wrong here. She seems to forget that. She had a meltdown the other night on Wolf Blitzer's show. I was going to actually play some of that. But I don't want to waste my time, my airtime, your listening time, to listen to these idiots anymore. Because right now, this country is in dire straits. And no matter who wins the election, the American people aren't going to win. Trump wins for whatever reason, because you know the left is going to claim that he stole the election, it was rigged, because they've set that narrative up for 4 years now. And all the polls seem to have Joe Biden in this incredible lead. Although when I talk to individuals, and I, have my own banger poll between people I talk to on the street in random conversations, it is 20-1 in favor of Trump. So I don't know where these people are polling. I don't have a group of friends that I just hang around and go, hey, we're all on Trump's side, right? No. The businesses I deal with, or that I'm involved with, I get to meet people on a daily basis, and we develop relationships where we can talk and have conversation about things that are happening outside of the industry, i.e. politics, vacationings, all those sort of things. I make friends with people, or I'm friendly. I don't really have a lot of friends per se, but I'm friendly with people because I think that's how we should be as a human race. But they've got to split up into all these sub-races, thinking you're this or that race when you're not. You're just one race, human. But when I talk to these people in just normal everyday conversations, it's 20-1 Trump. Easily. I could be undercalculating that number. The signs on the street are maybe not in that proportion, but it's probably for every 3 Biden signs, there are 10 Trump signs. What is that an indication of? Well, to me, that's an indication that the polls that we're being fed by the malpractice media, who lie to us on a constant basis or manipulate the truth or give us half-truths, that's easily proven just by going through the catalog of shows we have here. The malpractice media is manipulating the poll numbers, or even outright lying about them, to get you to believe that Donald Trump is going to steal the election if he wins. When you see the campaign rallies, especially before the COVID happened, but even during the current situation, you see that more people tend to show up for Trump than for Biden. Biden, on top of that, has so many gaffes day in and day out, I don't know if he has any cognitive reasoning anymore. And I think that's why Nancy Pelosi is setting up this 25th Amendment bullcrap, so that whoever, not just the Trumpster if he wins, although if they pull this shenanigans right after an election where Trump actually won, well, we know a lot then about the Democrat Party. They don't care that the American people want to go in a different direction than they want to go. But if Joe Biden gets in, all of a sudden he can't exercise his duties because he's not all there. Within 6 months, 8 months of him maybe winning, they're going to deem him incapable of dispatching his office. They're going to push the 25th Amendment, and I bet you, because it's Biden, he would resign. I can't do it anyways. And then we get Kamala the Queen, who doesn't get elected to office as the president, and through manipulation, through a grand scheme of things on the Democrat side, they're going to put somebody in that's going to push that agenda that half the country, again, is not going to want to do. That's the problem with the two-party system. On top of that, folks, especially with the Democrats, because again, the linguini-spined Republicans don't have the guts to not only get rid of things that were implemented during Democrat administrations, they're not willing to follow through with their promises of, well, tax cuts for everybody. Build that wall that they promised, and I'm not even behind the wall, but they promised it. And the elimination of Obamacare, which is now becoming a subject of interest because we have a new nomination for the Supreme Court, and they're all worried on the Democrat side that Obamacare is about ready to be abolished. Well, thank God for that. Because again, anybody who's on the left and listening to this broadcast, you can't have it all your way. It can't be your way or the highway. This is the United States of America. And individual responsibility and liberty is the number one thing, which means the government can't force us to do things. And once you allow a government to force us to do things, which they did with Obamacare, they forced us into a system that if you didn't pay into the system, they were going to fine you for not paying into their system. And in this regard, it was a medical system that they were trying to move the country to, which even they're not happy with anymore. They want to eliminate this little system called the Affordable Care Act. The Democrats won't admit this publicly, but they will in some regards if you listen to them. They want to move us to a single-payer system, and the single-payer being the United States government, which that doesn't have any money to speak of unless it steals it from its citizens through their hard work. So it is not a single-payer system. It's everybody pays for everybody. Or, more accurately, it's the people who pay taxes. And right now, that's the working folk. It's the working folk who are going to pay for the people who can't pay for insurance. So they're going to pay for everybody's insurance, including their own. And if you think that is fair, if you think I should pay into a system where you get free health care, then you and I, buddy, ma'am, sister, brother, whoever you are, well, we're never going to see eye to eye, and that's a problem. We'll be right back, folks.
Hey, Uncle Shady, where are they going? Hey, you, get back here. The John LeBang Show will be right back. Are you in need of commercial or residential window cleaning? Do you need your office cleaned? Maybe custodial work? How about some gutter cleaning? If you do, then call Pane in the Glass. For a beautiful shine that's crystal clear, call Pane and the Glass. You can find them on Facebook at Pane and the Glass. You're listening to the John LeBang Show.
It's better than an iReader convention.
This is how fair I am on this situation. If you want socialism, folks, then go ahead and have it. Just leave me and anybody else who doesn't want to be a part of it out of it. Leave us alone. We don't want to pay into it. We don't want the benefits. If there are any benefits, we don't want them. And if you can create a system like that, where only the people who want socialism pay into it and get the socialism, then that's great. You go ahead and do it. And you leave the rest of us out of it who don't want that system. But you know, folks, you know that won't ever happen because the people who want socialism aren't going to be able to pay for the socialism without having the rest of us who don't want it to pay for it. Because it's the people like, well, myself and others who don't want the socialism that end up paying for it because other people who want it can't pay for it because they don't work, they don't produce anything, they don't even try half the time. They expect a job to be there for them instead of going out and finding one, and if there's no job for them, they don't mind sitting home and collecting whatever benefits there are. And our choice in this current climate is more of the same. You either get Biden, who's going to increase all those things as long as he's in there, and then you'll get Kamala, who will then just send it over the roof. Or you get Trump and the Republicans, who maybe Trump would help remove some of these things, but the rest of the Republicans are spineless. They have no guts. They don't want to do anything that could benefit the people who voted them into office. They don't have the wherewithal to push back against a so-called liberal system, which it isn't liberal. It may be progressive, but progress doesn't always mean a good thing because even cancer progresses. So we, as the electorate, we sit back and we're supposed to vote for a two-party system that has done nothing but send this country into a tailspin for decades. And maybe Trump's the real deal, but he can't get anything done because the people on his side aren't worth a crap. And I don't even know if Trump's the real deal anymore because there's a side of me that thinks he's all part of the whole dang thing, and he might have been a Trojan horse because he's allowed these governors to pull off all the dictatorial things that they have done throughout this whole COVID thing. And our governor here, the witless wonder herself, she gets told by the Supreme Court that what she did was illegal. So what does she do? Instead of doing the right thing and opening up the state back up and saying, okay, I'm sorry, I made it bad. No, she then shifts a bunch of that stuff over to the health department and makes it a health regulation because her dictatorial dictates, her decrees, were found to be illegal. And because she is such a upstanding person, she goes, well, since my illegal activity didn't work, we'll just push it over here, and instead of saying, my bad, I'm sorry, I didn't know I was committing illegal activity. And does the FBI do anything about it? No. they go out and find people and incite them, and now we have articles out there understanding what I was telling you in the very beginning. FBI informant was the one of the most active leaders pushing the kidnapping plot. So the FBI informant, which is working for the FBI, is in there pushing to kidnap the governor. You see how that works out, folks. Again, exactly how I told you. The FBI infiltrated the group and then pushed them into this direction so they would have somebody to bust. And all this information will be available on our website, www.jlebang.com. That we link to everything. Just go to the most recent Daily Brew and you'll be able to find it and go, wow. Why isn't the mainstream malpractice media talking about this? Why aren't they, instead of pushing the narrative that a bunch of crazies, crackpots, nutters were plotting to kidnap the governor of Michigan, why aren't they explaining that they only did that because the FBI informant, who is an employee of the FBI, they're getting paid, was pushing them to do this? That's not in the malpractice media. That's not being talked about by the governor. Why isn't the governor upset with the FBI over this? Because of that information alone. The FBI was trying to set a plot against you, Witless. Or at least they were pushing people towards it. What if they didn't stop it, i.e. the Boston bombing? Because let's not forget, the Zainaroff brothers over there, they were connected with the ABC agency as well. They all knew about these guys. And all of a sudden, they slipped through. They didn't stop these guys for whatever reason. Maybe they were allowed to do it. Maybe they just got through. But whatever, the practices of the FBI to infiltrate groups and then incite them, push them, direct them into doing nefarious activities so that they can raise a big banner. See, we caught them. You can trust us here in the FBI. We caught them. Although, now we're finding out, as I told you all along, because you can't trust the FBI, this is the organization that used false information from so-called Mr. Steele, the Steele dossier. I know I've talked about this a bazillion times. They use false information, Russian propaganda, to get warrants to surveil Trump associates, which in effect was surveilling the Trump not only campaign, but the administration. And when they got caught, look what's happening. Nothing. So yeah, you're telling me the FBI, who we now find out publicly, the articles are on the website, folks, we are finding out publicly that their informant was the one directing the plan that was set into motion by this guy, the guy that's getting paid by the FBI. And we're supposed to, Mrs. Whitmore, I'm just saying, Gretchen, these FBI that you're holding up as protecting you were really setting up these guys to come after you. That's what happened. Why aren't you, unless you were part of the plan? Because let's not forget, folks, she had just lost a Michigan Supreme Court case and all her edicts were deemed illegal. The FBI, who's now being scrutinized terribly, not only by the public, but a great deal of people that are really mad that the FBI used false information to spy on a sitting president, they're under scrutiny. all of a sudden you get two entities that are under scrutiny and under tremendous heat. They come up with a plan that was insinuated, was instigated, was put into motion by the FBI. Now, if you don't think that's a setup, folks, then I don't know what to tell you. It's clear as day that the FBI was behind this all along. And it was brought out as an October surprise, because we get many of these, as I told you, way back in August. Get ready, we're going to have a whole bunch of October and maybe even a bunch of September surprises, and boy, did we get a bunch of them. All these revelations coming out. Now we got the laptop thing. That Giuliani, I watched his little video the other night. He has some really compelling information against the Bidens and what he calls the Biden crime syndicate, which, hey, do you really have to be Italian to be in the mafia? Just saying. Can it be a little homeboy mafia? Isn't that what gangsters are? They're like the mafia, right? Isn't like, what is the Mexican gang? MS-13 or whatever? Isn't that kind of like the mafia? Gangs are just like, low. We don't want to upset the gangs, but low IQ mafias. They're the ghetto mafias. They're not the nice Italian mafias that have a little bit of class to them. They were so trustworthy when you made a deal with the mafia, as long as you didn't hose them over, that the U.S. government made a deal with the mafia to protect the ports during World War II. I bet you didn't know that. So you had the mafia policing the ports for the U.S. government. And as long as you made a good deal with them, they were a trustworthy agency. Because that's what I would call them. They're like an agency of the corporation of theirself. So now we're with about 2.5 minutes left in this segment. We're supposed to vote in this election, and I know many of you feel it's the most important one, and in many regards it is. But it, in my opinion, is the most important one to sit out and don't get behind, because the associations of the two political candidates are troubling. And especially on the Biden side, the more we find out, the less trustworthy that man is. And just being a Democrat, from my opinion, I know you Democrats, and I separate you two. Just because you're a Democrat voter, I don't put you in the same category as the Democrat leaders. Those people want power, and they'll use your vote. You may believe in all the Democrat platforms, I understand that. But your leaders are a bunch of criminals, and you don't get rid of them. You leave them in there for decades. So I think it's time your voting needs to take a little turn. Think about, you can't keep these policies. If you don't like Trump, then how in the heck, a guy that's been there 4 years, and I know a lot of you don't like Trump. I'm not a fan either. But if you don't like Trump, he's been there 4 years. Nancy Pelosi's been there forever. Joe Biden, 47 years. Schumer forever. Mitchell McConnell forever. All these people have been there forever. You continue to vote them in. When you have the power to make sure these criminals don't become lifelong political criminals, lifelong career politicians, because I can tell you, Nancy Pelosi, Schumer, all these other buggers couldn't stand an iota of a chance in the real world finding a job. They're criminals. They've been there for so long. It's impossible not to be a criminal, not to have found every possible way to manipulate the system for you and your side to win. Take a quick break, folks, as we are halfway through the show.
Don't move a muscle.
The John LeBang Show will be right back.
With lots of fun and excitement. Yes!
Jim's Tuxedo and Menswear is your one-stop shop for tuxedos and men's quality suits. We go the extra mile to make sure your tux or suit is the perfect fit. Our huge selection is second to none in the state.
Looking good.
Outstanding customer service.
And we're located on Dix Toledo in Southgate. Call today, 734-285-3253.
Jim's Tuxedo and Menswear is the place to be.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming to Jim's Tuxedos and Menswear.
You know I had to come to the best.
That's right.
Hey, man, it's at the bottom of the hour, man. Do you know where your kids are, man?
If you want to contact the John LeBang Show, feel free to send an email to jlebang@live.com. And if you're on Twitter, look him up at John LeBang. And don't forget to go to his Facebook page at The John LeBang Show. Banger. Now here's John.
Now, as we continue the show, I want to thank you for joining me because I, again, forgot to thank people for tuning in. I get going in these broadcasts, and sometimes the energy takes over, and I don't realize that I didn't welcome you to the show. So please, thank you for tuning in. I know it's been a raucous show right up until this point, and it's going to continue that way. Keeping my thought from earlier and speaking to my Democratic friends and listeners out there who think Donald Trump is the worst thing on the planet. And again, there's a lot of bad with Donald. But you have to understand, folks, he's been there 4 years. The mistakes, if, at least at first, I gave it to rookie mistakes. And I was willing as a person to give the dude rookie mistakes because he wasn't in politics. He wasn't groomed to be a politician. He wasn't the kind of guy that was going to be in politics. For whatever reason, he went and became president. Whatever he did, whatever his motivations were, and I question those motivations because I don't know. I don't think it was about making America great again. Now, that might have been a result of the election of Donald Trump, as we saw after the 2016 election and how the economy, especially Wall Street itself, started booming. Jobs were created. We can't deny that. Now, you can give the Obama administration credit for some of that, I guess, but it exploded as soon as Donald Trump was elected, for whatever reason. People like myself said, okay, now, because I was a little naive on Trump, not entirely, because I did tell you back in that election that he was a former Democrat, and some of his ideas are still very democratic in nature. That's why I don't understand why the left hates him so much. Because although the agenda hasn't actually progressed the way the left might have wanted it, it sure hasn't been pulled back a whole lot, in my opinion. Now, sure, we've had a lot of executive orders doing this and doing that, getting rid of Obama's executive orders and so on and so forth. But in general, the border wall still isn't built. Obamacare is still there. Sure, the mandate's gone, kinda. But it's not been an exactly extremely successful first term for the Trump administration when it comes to his basic platform. Now, he's done the peace deals, and he's tried to do things that, well, our other leaders wouldn't like. He at least tried to sit down with Kim Ding Dong over there and try to work something out. It didn't work out. Oh well, at least he gave it a shot. But the Abraham Accords, which trouble me on many levels, But on the surface level, that is more peacemaking than anything the Obama administration did in their tenure. In fact, as soon as Obama won the Nobel Peace Prize, he went out and took out Libya. And then he started going after Syria soon after that. So, yeah, that's one thing that Trump hasn't done. Trump has primarily, for the most part, kept us out of expanding the wars that we were either currently in or possibly on the verge of getting into. So, aren't you on the left supposedly about peace and love and no wars, anti-war group? Well, Trump has done a better job in that department than your Obama guy. And definitely, with the way the Democrats talk about the Russians, if a Democrat, and it becomes all Democrat, we may be heading towards some kind of war with Russia, although with Trump we're heading towards some kind of war with China. So it's inevitable which way we're going to have a war. It looks like, in my opinion. It's not like the world has become peaceful. In fact, we've seen a rise since Trump. Is it a reaction? Was Trump part of the Hegelian dialectic, where Trump was the problem and it caused the reaction of the people? And what's going to be the solution? And especially if Trump is, as some people are saying, he's a Trojan horse, him being in office created the problem, which caused the reaction of a bunch of lefties and Antifa and Black Lives Matter, although we've seen a lot of that die down in the last few weeks, huh? Since the American people were totally getting sick of that, we've seen a pulling back, a restriction, a quiet silencing of those movements as we're running into crunch time, which is a very interesting development. But I'm sure, if needed, some incident will occur that the malpractice media, and maybe that's it, ladies and gentlemen, maybe the cops have been so scared into doing anything that they're not going to even attempt to stop criminals anymore, which is not going to lend fodder to the malpractice media in promoting when a bad guy or an idiot or a dummy does not, well, when a cop tells you to stop, when a cop tells you to put your hands up, when a cop tells you to heel, and you don't listen, and then something bad happens, well, if the cops are scared of doing those things anymore, which it might be, then, especially with all the killings of cops in the recent months, then it might be that these incidences are not happening anymore, and there's no reason to get upset because they're not happening, because the cops aren't doing their job anymore. And the cops have been scared out of doing their job. Who knows? I'm not sure. Maybe it's just been told to die down. Maybe the funding's not there. They spent a lot on funding. And speaking of funding, have you seen the amount of Joe Biden ads all over on regular mainstream television and, well, on the internet? That tells me something in itself, because I'm not even seeing Trump ads. Trump is barely promoting these days, which is interesting. It's very different than prior election cycles. And I think we touched on this before. The amount of Biden ads, one, I know they got a lot of money right now because their big donors want Trump out no matter what. They've got a lot of money, and Trump's not putting counter ads, or not as many. He's doing the social media ads, but he's not really doing television ads. And I was thinking, because in past elections, the person who's doing the most ads in the state is the one losing the state, and they are trying to gain support. So with the amount of ads on the Biden side and the lack of ads on the Trump side here in my state, I think the internal polling, not the stuff we're getting in the malpractice media that we've been talking about, that is falsified, because my internal polling says practically the same thing as probably the internal polling at the Republican National Committee. And that's Trump's going to win in a landslide. He is going to win, at least Michigan, in a landslide. And that's all I can judge it on. And these national polls, who might take more people from like California than, let's say, Idaho, and include them in their poll, if you do those sort of things without actually checking out the, what do they call those, the methodology of these polls, it might be something as small as wherever they're polling, the states they're polling, it's primarily Democrat, because they are Democrat states. They've always been Democrat states, or there will be Democrat states for a long time coming. So when you poll in those areas, you are going to get a very high number. And I'm telling you folks, again, if the election is on the up and up, which I don't believe it's going to be, Trump should win the country pretty handily in the Electoral College. Now, again, maybe not the popular vote, but the United States is not a country, one. It is 50 countries that have put together a mutual defense pact called the Constitution under the guise, under the name the United States. And we have a popular vote in those 50 states. In other words, those 50 countries, all separate. If we were all the same, we would all have the same laws. We would just abide by one single constitution. But each state has two. They have the state constitution and the United States Constitution. The state constitution dictates what happens in the state, and the United States Constitution is the Mutual Defense Pact protection document between the 50 states, saying if one state is attacked by a foreign entity, another or all the states will help defend that state. So let's say California gets invaded by China, the rest of the states will come to their aid, and we have built a conglomeration military for the defense of the 50 states. United States Army, the Air Force, the Navy, the Marines, Space Force, all the other agencies that fall under that. But we also have completely legal state militias and National Guards. Those are the ones that protect the state from any. And even the National Guard is a National Guard. So that's why they, can get deployed to places they shouldn't be deployed, like in foreign country. You are not guarding the nation when you're in Afghanistan or Iraq. And although that's another thing that Trump has really quietly not done, that has not been an accomplishment. And that might be a rookie mistake, I don't know, or maybe something else. But we're still in Afghanistan, and we're still in Iraq, and we're still in these countries that we just shouldn't be in anymore. Whatever the mission was back then, it has long since been accomplished or failed, or whatever end result you want to give it. It has long been done. It is long past the time that we need to leave those regions and bring our boys back home, because China is parking troops on our border in Canada and in Mexico, and if we don't watch it, and we're not that far from an actual conflict with China, they are going to have frontline troops ready to deploy in our country at a moment's notice. We'll be right back, folks.
Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
Because the John LeBang Show will be right back.
After this. That's guaranteed. Yes. Absolute Skin and Body Care, located in Livonia, Michigan. If you're in need of laser hair removal, skin care, laser tattoo removal, or laser hair regrowth, call Absolute Skin and Body Care. They're located at 37625 Ann Arbor Road, Suite 105 in Livonia, Michigan. Their phone number is 248-533-0448. Absolute Skin and Body Care. Give them a call. You're listening to the John LeBang Show. It's huge. Now I got to tweet about it.
Well, in this final segment, I'd like to talk about little show stuff, things that will be coming up, all different little things that are and aren't related to our current situation. First and foremost, it has been quite clear this past week that we are being victimized again by either shadow blocking, something. We're being censored on social media. We really figured that one out this week when we had posted articles and the links were gone. They were outright removed from our Facebook post. I don't know how that happened, but it happened. We've also seen for months now, years, where an incredible amount of people are subscribing to our YouTube channel, yet we're not seeing any views. Very few, 20, 30, 40, maybe if we're lucky, 100, 120 views on a video. So the idea that we can gain subscribers, people are somehow subscribing to us, but yet they're not watching any videos, doesn't make sense at all to us. And it's become quite apparent. We'll get thumbs up and then they get taken away. So I'm telling you, my listeners, and this is not some ploy to get you to go to our website more often, but I have a feeling, especially if Biden wins, but I have a feeling we're moving to a very troubling spot when it comes to free speech. And I know when we're on these websites, we don't really have free speech because it can be limited because these are not our sites. We don't own them. They're owned by Zuckerberg and alike. So I'm just saying, my listeners, people who are tuned in, I don't know how long they're going to allow voices like myself to continue telling you the things that aren't promoted or propagandized in the malpractice media. And if you're really going to want to keep up, because I can tell you I've seen these numbers being dropped on my website because there are links being removed from posts. You're going to have to go to my website, www.jlebang.com, for any of the stuff that we're producing if you want to make sure we're doing it. We've been asked, hey, why aren't you doing this? I said, I put out a video. Really? It's not in the feed. So I'm just saying, folks, if you're not seeing our posts, if you're not seeing any videos posted, realize that there's something going on behind the scenes that is making it that way. And if you want to get the information that we're producing, you got to go to the website, www.jlebang.com. I'm not asking you to buy anything. I'm not asking you to donate. All those things are greatly appreciated. But I don't sit here and pull the Alex Jones on you and go, buy this and buy that. I love it if you help out our sponsors, because our sponsors will then, in turn, continue to be our sponsors, and that helps the show out tremendously. Whether we get, paid advertising, or they just send us, like Squatch would do for some state channels, or they would send us a bulk of product to use or to give to their listeners. With that being said, in the coming weeks, you keep your eye on the schedule, because we're going to be announcing not only our fall schedule for the show, but the schedule for the Banger Music Awards, which we've already kind of put out there to the folks, but we haven't made, big hoo-ha about it. The schedule for the Christmas vacation and the specials that you'll get during that time, all those are going to be available on the website real soon, so please go to there. Again, for the Daily Brew, for videos, all that information. If you want to make sure you're getting it, you got to go there. I'm not asking you to buy things or anything. I just feel like it's going to be something real soon that voices like myself, who only are we don't get paid at this. We don't make money at this like big channels and all. We're just trying to share information. We don't have an agenda except for freedom. That's it. We only want freedom for everybody, every human being on the planet. And there are forces at work that are feverishly trying to take all that away from us. And none of them are so overtly doing it as with Governor Whitmer here in Michigan. Some are using plausible deniability to get across the tyranny, because they can remove themselves and blame it on a bunch of governors. Because you allow the governors to do those dictates. It was a few weeks back when I was interviewed by Jonathan Rios on his show, and he had asked me, don't you think the states are following along or are staying in line? Because I brought up it's the federal government's job to make sure that the states don't remove our freedom, don't overstep their bounds. That's what that Mutual Defense Pact is also about. And my answer was, no, they're not keeping him in line. And it might have been a little bit of a misspeak there, because what I really meant to say was, they're in line with the agenda. They're not in line. The federal government isn't keeping him in line when it comes to them trampling on our freedoms. And I was a little heated in that interview. And so sometimes I misspeak. It happens. I try to correct it. Something that I thought I was going to have to correct, but it actually turned out to be a 100% win, is the second presidential debate, which didn't happen. They had their little town halls, competing town halls, and you'll hear them in the mainstream media, and maybe this is true, maybe it's not. Of course, I don't believe anything in the malpractice media, but they say Biden had more people watching. Interesting though, because when I went to the YouTube videos, Trump had 10 times the amount of people watching his town hall than Joe Biden did. I don't know if the malpractice media included those numbers in their tallies. I'm not sure. I don't know if they would even want to include those. Again, when I've done my internal polling, people are voting Trump. Nobody is not voting, or very few people are not voting, and some are going the Biden route. And I know why they're going the Biden route, because most of them are low information voters. I had a little fun the other day. If you follow me on Facebook, you might have seen this little fun. But it's, we do coding here, and we talk about some things that would be considered taboo or tinfoil hat-like. like we cover code and those type of things, and we're very involved in those. In fact, we have found some code that we probably should do a video real soon. We've been a little bit of lazy in that, to be honest, because we have so much other going on. We have our brand new special coming out, which is on the verge of being out real soon. And then we have the preparation for the Banger Music Awards, as well as all this stuff with the election. So it is taken a little bit of a backseat to what we've been doing, and maybe we'll get to that. The interesting thing with Biden is that if you take the year 2020, divide it by the number of the beast, you get Joe Biden's text code, 30330. I put a post up about that. I was told by somebody that I was trolling, but I don't know if I was really trolling. See, there's nothing nefarious about it. It was strict math. And nobody can debunk the math, because I made people do it themselves. Even when I talked about it in person. I had a few people just get disgusted. Why? It's just math. And what's better, instead of just going, wow, that's crazy, and just moving on, they dismiss it. Even though it's right there in front of their face. Right there. And I'm not saying Joe Biden is some kind of Satanist. We don't know that. How would we know that? A lot of evidence shows that a lot of Democrats are not very open about their sick, twisted religious and personal beliefs. And they have been slowly letting it leak out, but you know, if they're Satanists, they can't just come out and say it. If they're Luciferians, they can't just come out and say it. But we know these type of people exist. And even if you don't believe it, folks, you know deep down that some people do. And if they're on a quest for power, then they're going to try to make their beliefs come true. Doesn't mean you have to believe it. Doesn't mean I believe it. All those things I've been telling you in the coding and stuff, where I believe they're going by what they're telling us through their coding, is not my beliefs, folks. I don't believe we should be going in this direction at all. But somebody does. And more and more and more people are following along with this agenda, are going along to get along, which either means they're in compliance of it, they're either being forced to do it, or they're part of the whole thing. So when you talk about things like codes and stuff, people get a little freaky. And I made them do the math themselves, folks. The numbers don't lie. The symbolism doesn't lie. How far they're willing to go with it, we'll have to find out. How true it is, we'll have to find out. Was it a coincidence? Is it reality? We're going to find out real soon. But when the Abraham Accords has Saturn on it, and I told you months prior that Saturn is deeply involved with what's happening. And we all know what Saturn represents, folks. And if you don't, go back to one of our prior videos and we'll explain it to you. We've got to get on out of here, folks. Have knocked out a whole show again. Thank you for tuning in. I can't express how much I really appreciate your time in showing up each and every week, your efforts in sharing the videos. It means more than ever right now. It means so much more because there is an active agenda in making sure that the information we're putting out is not reached by many people. Thank you again, folks. We'll see you next week. I'm John LeBang, signing off from the Bang.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2,